Welcome to Big Basket Now presents the RCB podcast.
A motorsport engineer by profession, a William J. Clinton Fellow, and a flag bearer of India's grassroots sports development, he has been bridging the gap between potential sports coaches and rural communities in need of affordable sports training. Championing a massive rural sports revolution, my guest today is Nitish Chiniwar, founder of Bridges of Sports Foundation. Nitish, thank you so much for joining us at the RCB podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us about the work that Bridges of Sports does and what are the gaps that you usually fill?
So we are basically working with communities to develop fastest sprinters of India with the goal of them representing the country at the Olympics. So at the core of it, we are really trying to bridge the gap where there is talent in remote rural parts of India and getting them to excellence, right? That journey of an athlete, that's where we work and that's where we are really focused on in the last 6 years.
बस यही बोलना है यही तुम्हारा ऐड
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार Now delivering in 10 minutes.
What are some lesser known challenges that one may not be aware of on a surface level? But
Yes.
because you do in-depth work and because you deal with this on the day-to-day, you will probably be the best person to answer this.
I think one to start off with, where sometimes, we hear a lot that, look, Indians do not have a certain physical attribute or the genes for that matter to excel in any particular sport. But we as a country are so diverse that we certainly have every gene for every possible sport. And one small examples to give, right? Lot of this talent gets lost at the very grassroots itself. Like these children win at the school competition or so, and when they have to compete at state level, they do not have even like 200 rupees to come to Bangalore and participate. It starts from just there, right? And we found an athlete like last year who, with just basic training, he broke the national record. And this was a kid who was living on his own with his grandmother and no earning member in the family. So just depending on the community for food. So he did not have any experience of training before or great nutrition or diet. It was just raw talent. So these are some small things, right? The talent is immense, just being there for them at the right time, and we will achieve a lot of things in the future.
What is your methodology? How do you go about things to ensure that a bigger impact is made on the athlete's life and in the world of sport?
So I think we are very focused on quality of our intervention. So we work with just one or two communities in one region, which is around 300 kilometers from here. It's in the Karnataka-Goa border. And we implement a sports training program there by first scouting talent in the same region. Community, we conduct a lot of leagues like the IPL, but at a grassroots level. And through this, we identify talent and they are sort of inducted into our system. And they're with us 365 days. Their food, education, training, sort of everything is taken care. And we nurture them towards being the best in India. And, it takes a little bit of time because that knowledge and scientific acumen to train these athletes took us 3 to 4 years. And today we have 4 of the fastest athletes of India from the same region. One of them even represented the country this year, winning her first international medal. So I think the fruits are coming now and we will see a lot more success in the field of athletics at least. And that's the focus area for us now.
That's great to know. Let's talk about the role of communities here at play, because the athletes that you induct are all from communities and it has a huge role to play in actually imbibing not just a sport, but also encouraging many athletes.
So I think the community initially it was tough because the first part is to build a trust, right? Because we are working with their children and they need to trust us and our program that it will sustain and we will take care of the children even if some do not succeed. Because that's what sometimes we forget. What about kids or athletes who do not succeed in becoming the best? So that's the biggest part. And in a way, we work with the community to build that trust, but we also engage them in taking responsibility to educate themselves in sports. Like, what are the opportunities in sports? We like the league which we conduct, right? It's all community owned. It's community owned teams which compete against each other. So that gives them an opportunity to become part of the process itself, rather than just stand by people who are looking at somebody doing something with their children. And that's where I think we should see at how we can make community a stakeholder in any interventions we do, and that's worked for us.
So even a young child that's growing in the community aspires to become a sports star.
Correct.
Because
Yes, and exactly like Naina Kokre, who was, we found her in 2019 running barefoot in one of our leagues. So she trained in the community itself for the 3 years until she represented the country in South Korea at the Asian Junior Championships. So when that happens, the young girl from the community, she's like, I saw Naina train every single day in this ground, and she is the best in India. That inspires them a lot. And that's why we believe program should be in the community itself, which it can inspire a lot more people.
what are some of the challenges that you have to face when scientific methods are introduced? It may mean letting go of your process and athlete's way of doing things, but you're also bringing in scientific expertise. So it takes, I'm guessing, a lot of push and pull from both the parties.
Yes, I think both for athletes and coaches, right? When you learn new things, the biggest challenge is to unlearn your old paths, right? Especially for athletes, to make them understand. When I say, take an example of nutrition. Their nutrition was very carb based because they can access only 2 meals a day, so they would mostly eat rice. To make them understand that protein is important, and that's an important part of your diet, that's a big hurdle, right? And these are very small things which we encounter on sort of daily basis, and it takes time and patience. Initially we would get frustrated, but now after 6 years, when we find a new athlete, we are patient enough to give them time to understand these things, because what's very obvious for us is not for them, because they've not been lucky as us to get access to whatever, right, education and exposure.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
Nitish, what are some of the global models you look at that have worked, or that you have seen picking up for best practices that you can implement at Bridges for Sports?
So when we initially said that, look, there is a community called cities who can produce the best sprinters in India, they can get India into Olympics and probably even get on the podium. Obviously, no one believed, like, they're a tribal community, how can it be possible? They might be little good, maybe at the Karnataka level, but how will they get to become and the best of the world, right? But we visited Kenya and Ethiopia in early days of our organization. There's a town called Eton. Eton is a town in Ethiopia. Baikoji is a town in Ethiopia. Baikoji has produced 35 Olympic medalists, and it's a tribal community who resides there. Eton has produced more than 10 to 12 world champions and Olympians in the last few decades. And again, it's a tribal community. It's based there. And these are towns where there are no footpaths. There are like running tracks beside the roads. And like how in India also, for every town we have an entrance, right? Welcome to Silk Town and all of that. There's like welcome to the town of world champions.
Wow.
So they have achieved it, and it's not that it's impossible. Like sports education, luckily, barriers of understanding sport are lower. Then you don't have to be a masters in something to understand a particular sport, and it's worked around the world, and that's what we are building here. And we have now success stories, showing us that we are in the right direction. And, in few years, you will see, hopefully, the dream is we have a board outside where we work to welcome to the town of sprinters. And that's the dream.
Yeah, we would love that.
Yes.
The town of sprinters. What is the financial model for this, and how do you look at it from the point of view of sustainability?
So obviously there are some traditional financing models like the CSR, corporate social responsibility, from corporates who have to support 2% of their profits. There are large foundations who support. Of course, there are HNIs who support and do good philanthropic work. All of these three segments are growing for us, luckily, in sports in India. But there are some new models which we are looking into like we all know that sports is really fan driven. Fans are the ones who really make sport, right? So we are looking into how we can tap into potential of these fans becoming part of our journey and how they become part of our own storytelling and everything, right? So it's a great opportunity where we can build a system which is where the fans are a big stakeholder. So that's one opportunity where we're looking at. And another opportunity is for the type of work we do, there is a lot of scope for brands to collaborate and use the potential of the storytelling which these communities offer. And that's another way I think sports in India, social sector can also look into to scale and grow further.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
How do you see grassroots level sport affecting societies in the long run, Nitish?
I think, initial days of our organization, we visited a lot of sort of countries, both developed and underdeveloped. But in all of these places where sports was prominent, it makes a lot, it creates a great culture. It makes a society more active and engaged in a lot of sporting events, makes them, and we do not look at this in that perspective, but sports contributes a lot of value in terms of GDP. In Europe, it contributes to more than 1 to 3%. In Brazil, football is a big contributor to social and economic growth of Brazilian economy, right? So sports has a real business sense for any country to reach a developed nation. Sports has to be a part of that. And, once we realize that, we will, I'm sure, start doing a lot more than what we do today.
When it comes to primal instinct, sports may be about winning and losing.
Yes.
But as an effect of sports, there are a lot of behavioral changes that happen. What can you share about what sports can do to a community?
So, I can just share you the small story of Nayana itself. In 2019, when we first inducted her into our system, she was this very shy person who was who would never be able to talk or speak. And she did not know what she was doing also. She did not know anything about athletics. And 3 years today, she even becoming the fastest in India, fourth fastest in Asia currently. She has spoken with more than 25,000 community members. She is the first girl from her village to start graduation ever. So these are changes which we did not design, but it's happening with her and her inspiring story on the community, on her own family. Her community was always sort of neglected. Maybe now they are invited. She is invited for every administration or any speech which happens in the nearby towns. She is always there. So it's a great change which happens. And it's an obvious change. It always happens with sports.
Right. How do you plan on scaling up Bridges of Sports Foundation?
So again, initially, as I mentioned, a lot of focus on quality for us. So we have just recently launched the project Tufan. So the goal of this project is to train few of the best athletes in this community to represent India in almost 8 international events in the next 5 years, which includes Asian Junior Championships, the World Junior, the World Championships, and even the Olympics. And we have the right people to make this happen, the athletes and coaches who have worked with more than 100 Olympians, winning 50 Olympic medals in sprinting itself. So there's a lot of collaboration work which we do around the world, and we are excited for this journey in the next 5 years.
We see drastic changes happen with every generation come in. How do you see the sports ecosystem change in the next 5 years? And how do you wish to contribute to that?
I think really like how in the maybe early 2000s, how Bangalore sort of started becoming this IT capital, and IT became a big part of Indian social or economic sort of decisions. I'm very sure that sport is going to become a big part of our economy, and it's seen across the world, and it will happen in India. And the one way we would like to contribute is as this grows and it becomes a mainstream industry, we still look at sport and building this industry in the rural parts of India, because luckily sport can be built. The base can be a rural sort of demography, right? And that's how we want to contribute that, maybe we have a chance to build sports from remote and rural parts of India and achieve the same success.
So the most influential people in sport are here at Leaders India Meet. Talk to us about your experience of being here.
So it's exciting. I mean, it's honestly the first time where we are sharing our journey to a broader audience. So we have been working in the last 6 years in a little bit of a silo, focusing on delivering the work, right? So it's really exciting to meet a lot of people who have shown a lot of interest in the work we do. And I think most important part is in showing interest in collaborating a lot and developing new partnerships. And that's exciting.
We are looking forward to visiting the town of Sprinters soon.
Yes.
And thank you for spending time with us and sharing all these valuable insights to the future athletes of today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Big Basket Now presents the RCB podcast.